Hello, I'm going to do some spoilers for the movie Conviction, starring Hilary Swank. Now, as you may know, the story is about a man who was accused of murder and sentenced to prison for life. This was Kenny Waters, the brother of Betty Ann Waters, played by Hilary Swank. And what happens is there's an old lady that's brutally murdered in her home, stabbed and everything, and some small town lady cop comes asking questions. She comes to question Kenny, approaches him out in the yard, and Kenny's a wise guy, so he's kind of giving her a hard time, calling her honey, and she's a female and not very attractive though. She's kind of ragged and middle-aged at this point, but this is the way Kenny is, and she takes offense to this. And she pulls out a gun and hauls him in for questioning, and apparently, he's set free because the story jumps about 2 years later when she would come back and actually arrest him. We have Betty Ann here. She's married and she's got a couple of kids, and Kenny's married too, and he's got a baby daughter. And Kenny and Betty Ann are very, very close brother and sister, and they hang around with each other all the time. They took care of each other growing up. There's a lot of flashbacks. We see they kind of had a rough upbringing, single mom, working 2 jobs, bitter about life, taking it out on the kids. The kids would get into mischief, stealing, petty stealing into stores and breaking into people's houses. But, not really bad kids, just kind of troublemakers a little bit. But they're adults now, and they're good to their children and everything. But so he's taken in, and he's brought to court, and what does him in is the same kind of blood match. There's no DNA back then, but that's gonna be key later. And what does him in is his ex-wife. Apparently he's divorced now. She says, that Kenny actually told her that he killed the old lady. She's saying this in court. And they found a girlfriend of Kenny's, and she said the same thing, that he admitted killing the old lady. And this is really hard evidence. It's damaging. This is what would convict him and sentence him to life in prison. These testimonies. Well, Betty Ann is 100% convinced that her brother's innocent, and she's going to do whatever it takes, to set him free. She's going to finish high school, get a GED, go to college, and eventually law school. And her husband's totally dead set against this. He just wants her to give this up and accept that her brother's in life in prison, and she won't have it. She will not have it. She works her way through college, and we see her in law school, and she's having a bit of a hard time. By this point, apparently she's divorced. Her kids are older now, and they're traveling back and forth to the dad's and her place. So she's a single mom, trying to take care of the kids. She's being a good mother. trying to get her schoolwork done, and she's not doing too well. She's failed some classes apparently, and she might be thrown out of school. But she has a friend at school, played by Minnie Driver. You know, they kind of relate to each other because they're both older than the rest of the students. So Minnie Driver's gonna help Betty Ann here in her quest here to finish school and help her brother. Now the thing is, she wants to pass the bar and become her brother's attorney, and she can really help him better this way. And we're wondering if she's going to make it. It's very difficult, and all the while she's visiting her brother all the time, and he's almost had a couple breakdowns. He's tried to kill himself at one time, and he doesn't know how long he can take this. The only thing that really keeps him going is his sister. He sees how devoted she is, and the love for each other is quite amazing, and what she's willing to go through to help him is what really makes this a great story, and knowing it's a true story. So, you know, she's always convincing her brother, never give up. Never give up. So she's learns about other cases where involving DNA is turned around cases. And she figures this could really help her brother because they didn't have DNA when they convicted him. And she knows DNA would, you know, can prove his innocence. She eventually passes the bar, and now she has to find evidence. Problem is, she has a little setback. Apparently, after 10 years, evidence is destroyed. You know, her brother just wants her to give up. Her girlfriend says, you know, there's nothing you can do. Evidence is destroyed, and Betty Ann just won't listen to it. I mean, she's upset, but she's convinced there's a way, and she never gives up. She goes down to the small town herself where he was convicted, and just has him search and search and search until he finds something. And eventually they do find a box, you know, with the blood and the knife and everything. That's just like a dream come true. So she's telling her brother about this and giving him hope. And she gets, you know, some famous attorneys involved, Barry Scheck, and the evidence show that wasn't his blood at the scene of the crime scene. The brother's ecstatic. He wants to, when is he gonna get out? She's saying hopefully soon. But I guess the DA, I can't think of her name right now. You know, she was, you know, being a real BI about this, and saying, well, we can still get him an accessory. So it sets everything back. It's months are going by, months and months. You know, meanwhile, this whole process has been about 18 years. So, you know, so months go by, and the brother's devastated. He pretty much, not really now, thinks he's never gonna get out, that they're all after him, and in a way they are. But, you know, Betty Ann just always kept the faith, and never gave up, and what they needed now was to have the ex-wife and girlfriend admit that they lied under oath. They go to the ex-girlfriend. She admits that the small town lady cop who originally arrested him with some of her, you know, police friends basically forced her and told her to lie on their oath. Otherwise, they would, go after her too as an accessory. And, the girlfriend get worried or scared or whatever. And she's kind of a drunk, and they convinced her to lie on her oath. And the same story with the ex-wife. She was afraid that they could take her daughter away, and they made threats on her too, the police force. Um, Really unbelievable. But the ex-girlfriend didn't want to go to jail for perjury. She refused to sign anything. And the ex-wife that Betty Ann really had to get to through the daughter, who's like 18 now. Here's the daughter that thought her father was a bad guy all her life. And but Betty Ann convinced her that her father was innocent, and the daughter kind of persuaded the mother to admit the truth finally. And she does, and she signs papers. And finally, he's gonna be set free. It's an amazing story. I mean, we've heard these stories before, but what Betty Ann went through to finish school, become an attorney, was just amazing. And apparently, they won a settlement against the law enforcement, the town that convicted them. They won some kind of settlement there. They tried to go up to the lady cop, but apparently the statute of limitations ran out, and she's really getting away with something here. But they did get some justice. With the corruption that was going on back then. So, kind of a bittersweet ending. I mean, the man did lose 18 years. Can't get that back. Yeah, but that's a story that actually took place in Massachusetts. And just an incredible story. Not the most entertaining movie, but fantastic acting. I loved it. And those are the spoilers.